Yo, what's up guys, Khraze here, back with some more Ghost of Tsushima videos, and today I'm so excited to bring you guys this video. I've been watching all of the reviews, I've watched every single piece of new footage that has been released once the embargo was lifted yesterday on the 14th, and in this video I basically compiled all of the gameplay details and information that I could get my hands on, and hopefully this is going to be an informative video for you guys. Of course, I am now even more hyped for Ghost of Tsushima. So you know what, let's jump right into it with all of the details, and as always, also don't forget to leave a thumbs up on this video if you are enjoying it. Anyway, at this point I think it's quite clear that there's a ton of stuff to do in Ghost of Tsushima, and some of the numbers that I'm seeing point out to at least 50 to 60 hours that you would need in order to completely finish the main story, as well as most of the side content as well, and possibly way more if you're also planning for like a full 100% of the game and getting that platinum trophy. This also brings us to one of the first tips that I'm seeing a ton of reviewers giving, which is to not just cut through the main story, but also pay attention to many of the side quests and side content that also provides additional unlockables that comes in the form of gear and a ton of skills. And you're going to definitely need those additional skills and the gear, because enemies, as you progress through the game, actually become way more skillful, they become more challenging, they start using more powerful attacks against you, and it's not just like they become some sort of bullet sponges for the sword, they actually become much better in combat, and you will need that extra edge against them. This also brings us to the first piece of trivia. You know how we can choose our horse in the beginning of the game. Yes, one of the names that we already knew was Nobu, but you can actually choose between this or two additional codes and names. The second one is called Sora, which translates to sky, and the third one to Kage, which translates to shadow, and I think you already know which one I'm going to pick. Nonetheless, I do want to talk about some of the quests that you can expect from Ghost of Tsushima. So of course we have like the main story, which is marked by the color gold. This is the type of tale that will advance you through the main plot, but then we also have the mythical quests or mythical tales. These are marked by the color blue, and they will also unlock legendary combat skills or mythical combat skills that are extremely powerful. They are even unblockable, some of them, and they deal a ton of damage against the enemies. This is the type of stuff that you will need against some of the later stages of the game, and especially so against some of the bosses. There's also the Tales of Tsushima, which are various other side quests, either for the inhabitants of the island or for your other side companions, many of which will actually accompany you in many of the battles. These are multi-part tales that will usually span over several arcs, and they might even provide you some really useful weapons at the end of them. But yeah, there's a lot of people that have really enjoyed the side quests. Like, a lot of reviewers have said that they're quite high quality and you're definitely going to enjoy them, and you will definitely want to not skip them because they also provide more context to everything that's happening with the story, to Jin's character, and there are otherwise things that you might miss if you just focus on the main story campaign. And this of course brings us to the point of exploration. So there's a lot of exploration, as I've said, in Ghost of Tsushima. The island is basically broken down into three major parts, all of which get to be unlocked, as I've been told, through three major arcs of the main story, with of course all of those 40 plus biomes that are in each one of them. Some of the stuff that you can find in terms of points of interest are shrines, fox dens, hot springs, bamboo strikes, pillars of honor, haikus, and this doesn't even begin to cover a ton of the unlockables that exist, collectibles, as well as a ton of like the combat encounters that also inhabit the island. But let's talk about the shrines. You already know about these from the state of play, that they are kind of like these jumping puzzles, platform sequences that at the end of them will reward you equipable charms that you're going to definitely want to wear. For example, this charm of AMATERASU seems to be really powerful as it heals you when killing an enemy, but there's also a ton of gear that is centered around a very interesting mechanic, which is fear. We already know from the state of play that you can actually use this as a mechanic. This is a mechanic in the game, and if you wear a build that exploits fear, you can actually make the enemies cower, and from that point on they are basically really easy targets. But there's a ton of other builds you can create in the game. You can go in to be more tanky but sacrifice some of your stealth capabilities. You can also be like a full stealth ninja character, or otherwise a ranged one that just uses the bow, but a ton of other stuff that we're going to cover once the game releases. The Fox Den are the second one. These are called Inari shrines. You basically, as you you know, follow a fox, it's going to bring you to one of these fox shrines, and when you pray to them, it also unlocks a charm slot, or well, a part of a charm slot, because you're going to need multiple of these to unlock one single slot, but also very useful since you can stack multiple charms on your character. Hot springs are also a thing, by the way. You can take hot baths in Ghost of Tsushima. It actually sounds and looks really awesome. It's kind of like a moment of serenity, but from a gameplay point of view, it improves your maximum HP, which is something that you're going to definitely want to do in this game. Bamboo strikes is also an important mini game because this is what increases your resolve meter, your maximum resolve. You're going to want a lot of that since you're going to use it to cast like special abilities such as the mythic abilities, or for just using different types of attacks with the kunai, the smoke bombs, and so on and so forth. We also have the pillars of honor, which we now found out that they provide additional cosmetic skins for your katana, but this isn't the only way you can get skins for your katana. You can also like head into town or to a random vendor, and they can also sell you stuff like sword kits, armor dyes, even hats that will bring you a ton of variety in your character customization. Haikus is also a thing. You can compose poems by just like using the nature around you, and these provide headbands to wear for your character. But again, as I've said, there are a ton more collectibles that are very useful for you to go ahead, gather, and complete everything in the game. Now, let's move over to another important topic, which are the various skill trees and abilities or techniques that you can unlock in this game. So between all of these techniques, there are three main groups. The first one is the samurai skill group with distinct skill trees. The first one called deflection, it basically deals with mechanics centered around parrying, such as for example perfect parries or parrying normally unblockable attacks from enemies. The second one is called evasion. These are abilities that deal with dodging, but not exclusively. Then we have the ghost skill group with two options for the ghost weapons and evolving tactics. Ghost weapons are basically some of like the stealthy weapons you can use in this game, including the kunais, the smoke bombs, sticky bombs, wind chimes, and so on and so forth. Then there's the evolving tactics. These are basically skills useful for stealth, such as better enemy detection, improving stealth tools, etc. There's even exploration based skills, such as for example these ones that will enhance your guiding wind, such as for example the wind of health that guides you to the hot springs where you can again increase your HP, but there's one for all of the other explorables as well. But the one that you're probably most interested in is the mythical or legendary combat arts, the one that I've teased a couple of days ago. These are basically very powerful attacks that also require some resolve meter in order to be casted. So just for example this one in the state of play that we now know, it's called the Heavenly Strike attack. It's basically unblockable damage against enemies that also deals huge damage if they are also staggered. But there's a ton more in there that I'm not going to spoil in this video because they are also quite legit, very interesting and very fun to play around with. Which brings us to the final, well, let's just say skill tree, but these are also the ones that deal with stances. So there is a whole category for the 4 different stances that you can get in the game. So these are the stone stance, water stance, wind, and finally moon. Each one of them is aimed towards a different type of enemy. So stone stance is very good against enemies with swords, water against enemies with shields, wind against enemies with spears, and moon stance against the bigger brute type enemies that you're going to encounter in the game. Of course, to unlock these, you're going to have to either kill encampment leaders like the ones that you find in various of the forts, or to study them from afar, and this is going to unlock these various stances for you. But each one of these stances, if you can believe that, also has their own skill trees with different ability points that you can invest into. Now I want to move over to another topic, which is the customization. We also found out quite a lot about this. Customization, there is a menu that indicates what type of stuff you have already unlocked and what other type of armor set or unlockable you haven't already unlocked. And it's also oftentimes providing you information where you are going to generally find it. Like for example, it's going to give you the name of a certain side quest that if you complete is going to give you that specific reward. On the combat side, this is another topic that I'm seeing some mixed reviews, but I think that most people can agree that the combat is enjoyable. It's one of the better aspects of the game, even though the AI of the enemy, especially during stealth combat, isn't the brightest. And I want to especially talk about the standoff, which seems to be very good at taking down enemies fast, assuming that you also succeed at it. So basically you have to hold triangle at the start of the standoff and only release it just as the enemy is about to strike you so that you strike it first, and do that with each subsequent enemy that launches in and tries to deal damage onto you. And if you pull this off, it's very rewarding because you can clear up 3, 4, even 5 enemies if you upgrade the skill and not have to deal with them later on. But if you don't, yeah, you're left with really low HP and then you're in a pickle. On a final note, the final subject that I'm going to discuss in this video is the performance and video details. Of course, there are 2 video options you can pick from. One of them is for quality and the other one is for frame rate. So if you want to have 4K but only 30 FPS, you're going to go with the quality setting. But if you want to have unlocked frame rates, still not 60 but better than 30, you can go with the frame rates option. But yeah, this is it for now with the details. Tomorrow I'm also going to do a live stream of the game once it actually launches worldwide, so make sure you stick around, also subscribe and activate that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next one.